Vistula University, new name, just change it. The lectures by ambassadors of new powers, countries that will run the world in the 21st century. It's my great pleasure to welcome the ambassador of China, Mr. Sun Yuxi, changed it, Ni Hao, Vistula University. We will offer a lecture. The title is China in World Economy. The session will be chaired by the President of Ambassadors Club, Ambassador Ryszard, who will also introduce Mr. Ambassador.
Mr. Ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We have a great pleasure, and it's my honor to introduce Ambassador of China, a senior diplomat with a lot of experience. He was an archivist ambassador to Rome, Italy, before coming to Warsaw. And the subject is our meeting today, our lecture is China and world economy. I should say that China is again of the top of the world's interest. And I'm using the word again cautiously because what is very often forgotten, China was for ages, for centuries. I give you one example. The so-called carbon shift, which is absolutely unavoidable in all vegetable mechanisms, was created in China. And only several centuries afterwards was reinvented in Europe. Just one example. Ladies and gentlemen, China is nowadays very important economic factor in the world. It's, as a matter of fact, the second largest economically speaking country in the world. There are many consequences of this state of affairs. The situation in China, the situation in the Chinese economy affects very strongly the overwhelming world's economy. Then it is not question or problem of academic discussion about the situation in Chinese economy. The Chinese economy and the well-being of Chinese economy, the state of the Chinese economy affects the international markets, especially nowadays in our interdependent way. Then I think for us, for every one of us, is a practical, absolutely practical approach and a practical question. What happened in China and what will happen in China? Let's imagine what would be the situation during the present crisis if the pace of growth, the rate of growth in China had been reduced heavily. Fortunately, it didn't happen. Then I think to listen to Mr. Ambassador.
Distinguished Professor, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Actually, I have a especially when China comes under the spotlight after overtaking Japan, because the second market has increased the Chinese imports. It is estimated that in 2010, China's imports from other parts of the world may reach $1.5 trillion, ranking the second in the world. In the time of financial crisis, while developed economies suffered from recession, China was quick to restore economic stability and growth. This has brought much needed confidence to the global economy. In the year 2009, China contributed to over 50% of the global growth. Last year, according to the World Bank, with a double-digit growth, China would contribute 25% to global growth, making it the leading engine of the global economy. China is in the process of rapid industrialization and urbanization. Its modernization drive is powering ahead. Given its huge population and a vast domestic market, China in the foreseeable future is fully capable of maintaining steady and fast economic growth of 8 to 9% annually, driving the global growth at the same time. China has always been an active participant in international economic and financial cooperation. During the past 10 years, on average every year, China imported $700 billion goods and created more than 14 million jobs every year in the relevant countries and regions. The year of 2010 saw China's trade volume with the EU grow by 32%, and I'm very glad to see that trade between China and Poland has also developed in the last year, with the Chinese export and import increased respectively by 26% and 13%. The bilateral trade volume reached $11 billion between China and Poland. It should be pointed out that China does not go after trade surplus. As it is not in our long-term economic interest. China's trade surplus has been falling since the financial crisis. It dropped 34% in 2009. And another 43% in the first half of 2010. This means that China's trade surplus to GDP ratio was further reduced to only more than 2%. This is an internationally accepted range. With its population making up 1/5 of the world's total, China offers a market with enormous potential. We welcome the entry into our market of competitive goods and services from around the world, and will provide a fair and more transparent environment for foreign investors. I'm sure as China boosts domestic demand, its imports will keep growing, leading to a more balanced trade. China is a constructive player in the reform of the global economic structure. As a beneficiary of economic globalization, it calls for adjustment and reform of the international political and economic order in the course of development. As a responsible player, it worked closely with the international community to address the financial crisis and promote global recovery. China stepped up microeconomic policy, coordination and dialogue with other countries, promoted the reform of the international financial system, and increased the resources for the IMF and the Asia Development Bank. The Chinese government took credible steps to support European recovery by sending buying missions to Europe and signing important trade and investment agreements. During the European sovereign debt crisis last year, China offered a helping hand to Greece, Spain, Portugal, via buying their treasury bonds. Despite remarkable achievements in China's development, we are aware that China is still the largest developing country in the world. We still have a long way to go before we can achieve our national development goals. China's per capita GDP is just 1/4 of that of Poland, ranking behind the 100th place in the world, according to the criteria set up by the UN. There are still 150 million Chinese people living in poverty. Development holds the key to resolving all these problems in China. We must pursue scientific development that puts people first and emphasizes comprehensive, coordinated, and sustainable development. Since China is still a developing country, development remains our top priority. 26 years ago, Mr. Deng Xiaoping, the chief architect of China's reform and opening up, he said, China's development is inseparable from that of the world. China's future is more closely connected with that of the world. China cannot develop inside isolation, and the world's prosperity and stability requires China's contribution. In an age of globalization, a more developed China means more opportunity and greater contributions to the world. At the same time, China is ready to work with all other countries to make our world a better place. China has recently formulated its 12th five-year plan, which calls for greater openness in more areas and a more active role in global economic governance and regional cooperation. To achieve this, we will engage with the world with an open mind. We will borrow from the fine cultural traditions and useful experiences of other countries and strengthen international exchange and cooperation. As far as I know, my speech today is a part of those of BRICS ambassadors to Poland. BRICS, which refers to Brazil, Russia, India, and China, that are deemed to be at a similar stage of emerging economic development. Actually, South Africa was already formally invited to join the BRICS. In 2010, we 5 countries are unlike to join the BRICS in 2010. We 5 countries are unlike in political system, development approach, religion, cultural tradition, but we can be best friends and partners. This fully proves that different institutions can tolerate each other. Different development models can cooperate. Different history, culture can learn from each other. Different cultural traditions can exchange. It conforms to the times, reflects to the characteristics of the times of win-win cooperation. We are now at a crucial time when China and Europe are both in key stage of development. China and the EU are more than just trading partners. We are also strategic partners who share a same destiny, rise to the common challenges, and work together for a future of prosperity. Our comprehensive strategic and mutually beneficial cooperation is increasingly taking up momentum from a new historical starting point. Whether this momentum can be sustained and grow will rest largely with the people exchange has an important role in ensuring our bilateral ties. In my opinion, youth represent the most dynamic element in people-to-people exchange, because youth are the ones who create the future. China-EU Year of Youth was launched at the beginning of this year. It offers a perfect opportunity for our young people to have a better understanding about each other. So we hope more events and activities will be organized to create more opportunities for our young people to meet and talk. We want to do this because we understand that friendship and understanding are essential for dialogue between different cultures and civilizations. And as we develop appreciation of each other, so will we consolidate the popular support of China-EU ties in the long run. So to conclude, I hope my words today could make you get better understanding towards China. And to my young friends, I wish you could make your own contribution to make a brighter future of China and Poland, and also China-EU relations. Thank you very much. And questions, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for that most interesting lecture. And now I open the discussion. There is the room for questions, short comments, and I kindly request you to stand up and take the floor and give your names. Thank you very much.
Magic PhD, Warsaw School of Economics. Thank you, first of all, Rector and Club for the invitation for this meeting. It was very interesting to hear your speech, Mr. Ambassador. And I would have I had the pleasure of being in China and made a speech in Changchun and in Beijing, and I know that Changchun is the city where you have 10 factories of cars, for example. And therefore I've got two questions for you, and one concerning which is happening now. In other words, what is the approach of China to the situation, because we've got a lot of investment in Africa. So therefore, what is your approach to the present situation in Africa? That is point one. Point two, we have now some problems with our automobile companies in Poland, and here in Warsaw there has been a bankruptcy of our company of Fiat producing. Do you see a possibility of investment from, and there were some speeches about investment from China in this company, this Fiat company, and I would like to question do you see a possibility of China of investing here in Poland and Warsaw? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. First of all, about our economic activities for our support in Africa. As we, from the government angle, we say we are support, our aim for Africa. Because as I said just now, China is a developing country, and Africa is totally developing continent. And we see, we are very much interested to have all the developing countries develop together, especially in this time of globalization. We can't leave any place to be undeveloped. we see if Africa can develop more, China's economy will be stronger. Then only in that way we can have a better world. There may be some company could be only after profit, but as our policy orientations on such large scale, definitely we are thinking not only economically but also politically. We want our poor friends in developing countries to develop together with us, and that's, I think, the major policy orientation of our activities in Africa. And the next question, if I understand correctly, is about investment in Poland. Actually, when I come here, I have in mind put the purpose of my mission. One of the most important tasks is to promote Chinese investments in Poland. It's the largest in the world. It's much larger than that of the United States. So now this too much money now becomes a big problem for China. Even from our interest, we need to invest more overseas. And Poland, I think this is, you have good environment. There are many opportunities, as I see in your privatization plan. There are many projects, and lots of factories also need help. And so there are mutual interests in making the development possible. Indeed, over the past few years, our investment already increased, but not so ideal. We need to make more to invest on a bigger extent. But the business is business. So, as an ambassador from the government point, I'm trying to create more exchanges between our businessmen, create some platforms. And last year, there were around 30 Chinese business delegations, came to Poland to look for investment opportunities. And this year, I think it will double. We will double this figure. But so far, the total investment volume is not so big. According to your statistic, it's around $100 million, which is compared with the Chinese capability, is too small. So in the years to come, I'm sure there will be this will increase rapidly. But whether this investment will come to the project you mentioned just now, we will see. I mean, the decision should be made by the Chinese car makers or companies. I will try to get them over. Thank you.
I certainly appreciate very much your comments, and I appreciate China's contribution to world economy. But I would like to mention quite serious concerns of Polish and generally speaking EU business community concerning certain standards of Chinese trade policy. And I'm referring to such particular developments as, for example, problems in access to the Chinese market for services, problems in access to the Chinese market for government procurement, which is a major concern for the European Union. The question of compatibility of technical standards applied in China, especially at the level of provinces, with those standards that are generally applied in Europe. The problem of access to local resources for investors, where preferences are given to Chinese operators. How would you like to comment on this, Mr. Ambassador? How your government would like to address this concern? they seem to be quite well justified. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your question, but it looked a quite difficult question for me because, you know, as the Chinese economic development, I say the fast development only the past around 30 years. And in the first 20 years, China is mostly attracting foreign investment into China. And only the last 10 years, we just started to invest overseas. So we are still at the learning stage. Because we are a developing country. If we go to Africa and help, and you know, there the standards and a lot of technical requirements, or you know, law and the regulations, is even more backward stage than that of China. We get used to that. But now, only since last, say, 3 or 5 years, we start to invest in Europe. But here is a developed world. So we are students. We are learning in this area. But we are all buying. We will stick to the regulation. Maybe at the beginning, since we are learning, we have to pay fee to when we make mistakes or errors committed, and we have to compensate. So I think all the just now you mentioned about the criterions or standards of goods, services, local, how to handle the resources, labor law, and all that. All these problems, I think this facing us provides us tremendous difficulty. Even say the first case, now we are doing the A2 motorway in Poland, the highway. Now, I think the Chinese management met all these problems, and now they are in a kind of quite a big difficulty. And at the last, I don't think, although they got the bidding and everything, they will suffer quite a big loss in meeting these requirements. But anyhow, they are learning. And I think the Chinese are quite quick to learn. And we have, over the years, we have sent, thousands or even a million students come to Europe, United States. Now, but anyhow, I think we will go, we will try, we will be a good guy in there and meet the local requirements and standards. Thank you. I wonder if I answered your question.
Good evening, Your Excellency. I am Ahmed Elazi from Malawi. I am in the Computer Science Department here in the University of Economics and Computer Science. Your Excellency, I have 2 questions, quite short actually. My first question is about the Chinese one-child policy. Although it played quite a major role in controlling the Chinese population, there were also some drawbacks in this one-child policy, like shortage of unskilled labor and, of course, other things to mention. I just wanted to know what the Chinese government did to curb these challenges they faced that were brought up by the one-child policy. My second thing is about the Chinese foreign reserves. China is the country which has most of the US dollars. If we are to check their foreign reserves, and if China was to dissolve all these dollars they have, it would somehow make the American economy completely unstable, and it would really be a problem for the US government to fix such a problem. I wanted to know what kind of relationship exists between the USA and China, and what keeps China from indulging into such an act. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. First, about the family planning, just now you mentioned policy, but I must tell you now, I think about 10 years ago, we call it family planning policy. But now, this one-child policy already become law, so it's family planning law. And it is still in practice. Now, with this family planning law, I think that maybe in the year of 2020, the Chinese population will reach 1.5 billion. And without this law, we don't know where we are going. Maybe 20 billion. Or if at the beginning we don't have this law, may reach 30 billion. Maybe half of all the Chinese. So we have to have it. Although there are lots of criticism. But now I'm happy to see after around 30 years of practicing this, first as a policy and later became law. Now people get used to it. For now, if you ask any couple to have 2 or 3 children, they will refuse. So now it's being naturally accepted. But according to the experts, they say by the year of 2020, we will reach a peak, and then gradually, the population might drop. When we drop, we will have new policy, new law to deal with that. So, but anyhow, when you relate this with the Chinese labor situation, well, for the time being, the Chinese labor force is still rapidly increasing because the population really too big. Now every year, the Chinese government and the business must provide around 20 million jobs every year. They have to create 20 million job opportunities for its for the labor force. About when you say I could not make that very unskilled labor or skilled labor. Now we have the largest the largest number of university graduates in the world as one country. I mean, India, maybe last century, India had the largest number of university graduates, but now it's China. The jobs are, the job opportunities are raising. Unskilled labor is getting less and less. And now it's because of the urbanization. Lots of agricultural labor came into the cities, became unskilled labor. But I think the unemployment rate is also quite high in China. And the second question is about relations between China and the United States. Well, foreign reserves, because we sold so many goods and services to the United States. The money is there. Now we are trying our best to balance the reserve, not only dollars, but also some euros or others, even euros, Japanese yen, and the renminbi is also getting stronger. Well, we are trying to do this, but at the same time, I think the cooperation or good relations between China and the United States is essential. It's very important. Now, from the government level, the top leader and nearly all our ministers have established mechanisms for dialogue and for coordination. We have to leaders of two countries put 90% of the time on political issues. But now it's 90% of the time on economic issues. How to handle the renminbi issue, how to handle the trade. And, you know, there is, so I'm happy to see that. So we are working in the international organization like G8, G20, or any you can mention, IMF, World Bank. We are cooperating. Whenever something happens, immediately United States, American and Chinese officials will come together and discuss. I'm very happy to see that. If we can talk, we can foresee the problem, then we will find a solution to solve it. So, so you can see over the we have some problems in the United States. If you look at the prices over the past 10, 20, or even 30 years, no crisis between the United States. There could be some accidents. Even they bombed our embassy, it can be very peacefully and quietly solved. Even the two planes of the two countries hit each other. Then peacefully, even in a friendly manner, it's solved. I'm happy to see this momentum. I hope things will develop that way. So, I'm not sure whether they still have a situation in China. I think they will have situation. Their activities are all now maybe outside world. It is spilled over and with nothing in China now. There could be still some, but anyway, it is said to be actually anti-government, anti-social, and non-scientific organization. It's maybe people even call it evil cult or anything. But I don't know, really, could not understand much what they are doing, why they are there. But in China, I can't see them anymore. They don't have a situation in China. Thank you.
I know that this situation is very wrong.
Yeah. Yes, I saw every Sunday at the gate, opposite my gate of my embassy, I saw some people practicing Bangla, but this is only happened outside China. Inside China, no one practicing it. I can't see anyone practicing it. Just that.
Many people are prison who believe in Falun Gong.
I don't think so. There could be someone because they break the law. They may go to prison, but because of not because of that. Thank you.
Again, myself, China. Most from Macau and most from the Republic of Malawi. A student of this university and I'm taking computer science. I also have a question concerning economy. When I understand the word economy, I don't only take it for the wealth of the country, but the well-being of the people. So I have a question about China. Since there is a point that China serves almost 1/3 of the world's reserves, isn't it? So being that the case, I'd like to know the difference between, the difference between the people in the poverty line and those that are below the poverty line. And I would also like to know what the government is doing to ensure the well-being of the people, knowing that China is a big country. They are complaining of the excessive increase of population, but if you look at China, most of the people are living only in specific areas. They are scattered in specific areas, but all the country can be used equally for the placement of these people's habitation. So I'd like to know what China is.
We are more concerned. We are with what we call scientific development, sustained development. If you want to have a better development, your projects ought to be environmental friendly, and the social, you have to have social justice. The distribution should be fair, but I think in any society, there is this gap between the rich and the poor. And we are sorry to see the gap in China. Say maybe in the 50s, you didn't see any gap. But when the economy developed, the gap is enlarging, definitely, as you said. But this is, they need a comprehensive measure now we have, for example, the most of the poor people are in the rural area. Now we totally eliminate the agricultural tax. And we urbanize, the urbanization now go very fast. In the past, say, 10 years ago, the agricultural labor, when they came to the city, they were in a terrible condition. Now things are improving, education, health care, and so I think it takes time and a comprehensive measure to gradually to develop. So it is a big problem still in China. And but when you see the problem, you are seriously handling it. Sooner or later, the problem could be solved. Thank you.
Grzegorz Kostrzeba-Zorbas of Vistula University. Your Excellency, my first question considers the international financial system, which is undergoing reforms now. I wonder if China is satisfied with those reforms and what China would like to change in the global financial system. My second question is about energy. There's an emerging scarcity of traditional energy sources like oil and gas and coal. And I would like to know if China sees the solution in nuclear energy or maybe another solution, a strategic long-term solution to the scarcity of energy on the global market. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, first about the financial system of the world, definitely we are not satisfied. We think they need further and substantial reform of that, because all this structure was formed, say maybe after the Second World War. Maybe it already lasted 50 or 60 years. And even the financial crisis, in some way is connected with the past, say, financial institution, the financial rules. But now, anyhow, I'm not an expert, I can't talk in detail, but we are taking a very active part in reforming this. And we are conducting discussions or even debate with our European partners, American partners, as you say, especially the G20. They've been keep talking on it. I think just a few days ago, the finance ministers of G20, they met. Again, I think none of them fully satisfied with the present system. But that's why they are talking all about this reform. But anyway, as I said just now, we are active participants and we are a constructive player in this, and will continue our responsibility in this. And about the energy, well, now we are with the world. We are thinking of clean energy. We are making great effort in using more clean energy, and definitely nuclear energy is one of the way out. And I think now China's the number of nuclear reactors inside China is also number 2 now. And we are also building nuclear power stations outside China. I think even as early as 80s, when I was working in Pakistan, we built the first nuclear reactor in Pakistan for power generation. And now we are doing that in Middle Asia, in Southeast Asia, Middle Asia, and we are also ready maybe enter into Europe. In Poland line, we are ready for investment, for cooperation, but maybe I don't think, I'm not sure whether we can be successful here. But at the beginning, our most close partner of nuclear energy is France. Now we are still cooperating. And even, I think, lots of French nuclear, institutes or companies, now there are lots of Chinese factors, or even Chinese investment in it. I think end of last year, my President Hu Jintao visited France, and in the communique, there is, I wonder if you noticed, there is a phrase, this declaration mentioned China and France will go to invest on nuclear in third countries. Maybe in the French name, with more than half of the Chinese money. So we will work a lot on that. But for the traditional, energy for petroleum, coal, we have to reduce the consumption of it. Or we can try to clean things like liquefy the coal to make it cleaner. For this, I think for over the past 20 years, we have good cooperation with Poland. We are now doing joint research on cleaning the traditional energy. I mean, especially for coal. We are both China and Poland depended very much on coal for energy. I think now all these efforts, we are together with the world. We will try our best. Thank you.
Dean of the Economics Faculty and International Business at this university. Mr. Ambassador, my question is related to the Chinese investment in Poland and Polish investment in China, but also linked to the activity of our university. Studying a bit the success and problems of the Chinese investment in Poland and Polish investment in China, I would risk the statement that partly due to the fact of a lack of knowledge of the business environment and also cultural differences between Poland and China. Now, in our university, we devote a lot of attention to the cooperation between our university and the Chinese institution. Probably you know that we are in the course of establishment of the Confucius Institute. That next month we start the lessons of a Chinese language. Now, do you think it would be a good idea to launch a special program with your help and assistance to teach Polish students and Polish investors how to behave in China, and on the contrary, such a program for Polish students, Polish Chinese investors, how to behave in Polish business environment and about the Polish culture, European culture. Do you think it's a good idea?
Thank you. I do. I very much agree with you. And you made a very good suggestion. And first of all, about the investment between China and Poland, there are already lots of them happened. But in the past, it's not on a very large scale. Anyhow, I think so far there are already around 300 Chinese business registered in Poland. Maybe around 20 of them tend to be slightly bigger. Many of them are Chinese private, kind of immigrants. They are doing some, maybe the smallest could be a restaurant. But Poland investment in China, maybe there are more so far. But I'm sure in future there will be more Chinese investment in Poland than the other way. In Poland's investment in China, there are also around 300 registered Polish companies or joint ventures with the Chinese in China. So there, over the years, it's already developed. And I must say, the first Chinese overseas company, foreign joint venture or investment, it was with Poland. It was started in the 50s, early 50s. They already 60 years of experience as a shipping company. They have twin headquarters, one in Shanghai and one in Gdańsk. They keep making profit every year. They never suffered loss. Even during the financial crisis, the lowest they made profit for about $10 million US. But anyhow, we need, for example, if we want to improve the situation, and one area you mentioned is cultural exchange, let people know to understand each other. Because when you try to promote investment, it's a good formula you have to follow. First, people have to meet each other. Then what I say, exchange. You have to visit each other. And then, when you know each other, then you can say, you try to understand each other. When you got understanding, you can build up confidence, friendship. And then the logical result of all that could be cooperation. So the money are when people handle money, they are very cautious. Before they're fully confident, they don't want to invest in it. So I think the cultural barriers, one of them very similar language even. So we need to overcome that. So any suggestions, ideas or project, I will try my best to promote. So far, we have established 4 Confucius Institutes teaching Chinese language and culture in Poland. And I think in China, there are also about 8 to 10 Chinese universities teaching Polish language. In my hometown, Harbin, there are 1 university, 1 school teaching Polish. We increase the investment, and there will be a demand for people who understand each other and who know each other's language. So now I think there are more and more people in Poland studying Chinese. This is culturally, for cultural exchange, this is good. But for the business, it's also the demand is growing. So we must work in this to meet the demand. Thank you. I have a chance to work on the peninsula for 3 years. I was in Seoul for 3 years. I visited North Korea a number of times. And we are very much concerned with the Korean issue. And as you all know that in the early 50s, China and the United States fought a war on the peninsula. When we are looking back at that and thinking about the future, thinking the military and economic weight of the United States and China today, of course people worry about the Korean situation. But I think now we are fortunate new era. History sometimes repeats itself, but not always. Now the Korean situation is changing. But the potential crisis is there. Our effort, major effort, just now you mentioned that they are talking with each other. Actually, I was in three years in South Korea. Now my major effort to promote the reform. Now they have a platform for 16-party talk. At my time, we first started for the two-party talk, North and the South, and then it was difficult. So China and the United States came in, and it was at the beginning it was four-party talk, and then later on Russia and Japan joined. But anyhow, on the Korean Peninsula, what we are heading for, what we are promoting, we are trying our best to talk. If you can talk, things can have a chance to solve peacefully. But if crisis happens, I don't think if there is a war or conflict between the two of them, we'll try our best to stop it. And the United States, I think, and I hope they will do the same. I don't think China and the United States will go into clashes on that. Maybe when you're talking, there will be differences. Because geographically we are different. We might have different concerns. The interest could be different. But only because of these differences we can talk. So if we can keep talking, things will gradually improve. Anyhow, to have the official word, our policy towards the key words in our policy towards the Korean Peninsula issue is peace, friendly consultation, stability, and no nuclear weapons, please. So that's nuclear free. So that's our major effort. Thank you.
My name is Murski, Mr. Ambassador. I am a privileged man. I had the chance to spend many years in your beautiful country. There are some other people here who also, some of my colleagues who also had this privilege of living in China for years. Now, we had a chance to watch the processes of transformation in China. We had a chance to see the economic progress, and we do admire your great achievements. I have noticed that, as you have already told us today, China is paying great attention to relations with the EU. Last year, a number of Chinese top leaders visited Western European countries, and there were new agreements on trade, economic cooperation, science and technology. Now, my question is very simple. We have with China a very unbalanced balance of trade. We have a negative balance of trade with China since '95. My question is, how do you see, what are the chances of China increasing imports from Poland so that we could at least a bit improve this balance of trade? 我们的逆差太大。整15年以来，一直是波兰是逆差，希望改变这个情况。谢谢你。
Very good, very good. Sure. As I said just now, our trade, the increase, I don't worry about the volume. Increase of the volume, there are no problem. Definitely will increase. And as the figure I gave is 11 billion. Last year, and it's also very much increased. But the balance was slightly reduced last year. I say China's imports from Poland increased by 26%, and exports to Poland only increased by 13%. So there is already an effort there. And I think before I came to Poland, when I met my boss, foreign minister, Mr. Yucci, the first thing I still remember he mentioned, you go there, first thing you must reduce the trade, to balance the trade. That's one of your primary tasks. Because whenever I meet my Polish counterpart, he will mention this issue to me. Please try your best. But anyhow, I'm a diplomat, so I'm trying to work with our Ministry of Commerce and try to work with our companies, even work with the Chinese customers, because we want to import more Polish agricultural products. I told them the Polish meat is very good. I grew up with Polish sausages. The Polish sausages in my hometown have a very good reputation. People are very popular. We like that. But now we don't have. Now we call it Russian sauce. So we must actually the technique of Chinese producing sausage. It was from Poland. Now, anyhow, to try to find out the Polish goods which we can import is my primary task here. And for this, I think I will try to arrange more Chinese companies. When I was in Italy, I promoted a purchasing delegation of nearly 200 Chinese businessmen also to go to Italy to balance the trade. But the Chinese trade with Italy is nearly balanced. But in Poland, I should do the same. Last year, when Mr. Jiaqing, one of the Chinese speakers came, he took with him also about around 100 businessmen. And this year, as I said, the Chinese business delegation, I have planned to double. I have to repeat again, business is business. We have to have more businessmen to come to Poland. If they can come here more and buy more, the trade and graduate and balance. I can't do it overnight or by official order. It won't work. You have to do it in that way. And another thing, we can also import more technology and services. You have very good technology also in certain areas. And not agricultural products, but that's it's good, but the volume it cannot be very big. So we are also thinking of the Polish produced helicopters or bigger equipment. And to balance this trade, and there are also other ways. For example, we can do, as I said, do more investment in Poland. And also, we can have more tourism. Now, last year, the Chinese outgoing tourism was 60 million. If we can say for maybe 10% of them come to Poland and they will spend lots of money here, then we will also help the trade deficit. So, but please, Your Excellency, I am not ready to learn from any friends here. Give me some concrete ideas for me to practice to balance the trade. Thank you. Okay. The last question.
About trade in goods and services, and our strategy is envisaging they'll be offering educational services to students from all over the world, with at least 500 foreign students, maybe even closer to 1,000 in 5 years. China globally. So we hope that our educational services exports to China could develop. It could include e-learning, direct studies from many Chinese students in the Vistula University. So this is, we are open to any ideas, and the steps that we're taking to open the Confucius Institute is heading in the right direction. My question would be, when I was many years back, when I was deputy governor of the National Bank of Poland, I took the decision to move away from US dollars and invest in other currencies. We reduced the share of the dollar far below what was used to be about 50% in foreign exchange reserves of the National Bank of Poland. We added some other currencies, including Japanese yen. I wanted to add renminbi, but at that time it was not possible for, so rating was not good enough, we need AA. I want to ask you, what is the plan for international role of renminbi going forward? I know that there are renminbi agreements.
Well, this is a very good question, and I think my colleagues at home, or even the Chinese bankers, the investors, they are making a combined offer to free renminbi from very tight government control. We are trying very hard, and now the floating rate of renminbi is getting freer and freer. But there will be gradually this relaxation of the control of renminbi will gradually go to a point to let the renminbi completely free. As far as I can see that, maybe 3 to 5 years time, but it needs a process. Not do it one day. There could be a monster. Could be a disaster even for the world. But we are fortunate during the last financial crisis, it was still under control. If renminbi had a problem, it will definitely have a very negative impact as well. But we are trying very hard. And now, I think in the neighboring area of China, for example, Southeast Asia, even Burma, Pakistan, or even Middle Asia, there are winners in the market. And you can freely exchange renminbi in any bank in those areas. It first started in Hong Kong, Singapore, or Thailand, Malaysia, some close economic partners in the neighboring area. Now it's expanding. Which day will come here? But anyhow, what I was in Italy, the Bank of China already started the renminbi business. And in Poland, we have a plan to have a Chinese bank in Warsaw in this year. There were already several delegations made. The concrete plan is already made. And we need some more time. I can't say maybe the biggest could be 2 years. It takes some time to do that. And we are discussing very closely with our European partners, especially with the United States, also with the financial institutions like the World Bank, IMF. Definitely we are aiming for renminbi to be completely free, like the euro, like the dollar. I hope that will happen as soon as possible. Hopefully 3 years, as my prediction. Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot one last question. Firstly, please let me introduce myself. I'm the Chinese teacher of this university, and as you were told, we will have Chinese classes next week. So my question is, but we still have some problems because in this university we start from zero. Before we never had the Chinese classes. So we have a lot of problems. For example, we for Chinese activities, so we need some necessaries for doing this. So my question is, can we get some support from Chinese embassy if necessary in the future? For example, I'm still doing with my resident card. I'm from Handan, from Confucius Institute. But sometimes, you know, we are abroad and they're in China. They cannot help us. They cannot give us very urgent help to help us to solve these problems. So so that is my question. Can we get some support from the embassy of China? And if we could, what kind of support the Chinese embassy could give us? Thank you very much.
Definitely, I will offer my full support for you. And say, if for financial support, I might have difficulty because but for books, teaching material, or any, disk, even computer, English, no problem. I will keep in close touch. I have, I think, my secretary for education with me, and please come to my embassy, and any kind of support you mentioned, I will try my best to give. And the first batch of support, I hope they're coming. Now this is the end of February. Before the end of March, you must have your first support. I will keep doing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much on behalf of all present here for the excellent speech, lecture. We benefited a lot from your lecture, and we appreciated your openness, readiness to the most comprehensive way to answer all the questions. We count also very much on the further and deeper cooperation between this university and your embassy. Thank you very much, and we are extremely grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.